So it's a new day, and I've got a couple of logs to do, and then I'm going to have to go and debark some more logs. And I've done it this way because the log pile is quite close to where I'm working. It's not a big hassle. So I put a whole load of logs on. Now I've got a much better idea of what kind of logs I need and how many. And so I'll get a couple of logs on, and then I'll start debarking. Now I've covered debarking in the first part of this series. It was actually called the intro part. So if you want to know about that stuff, then go back and have a look at that. I'll put a link in. Okay, let's go home for a cold beer. So we're at a really quite important stage in the build. Yesterday I debarked a whole bunch more logs. Running out of logs, and the choice of diameters and things is getting limited. So most of the logs that are left are going to be big ones. But I guess it's okay. I've set up this frame just to have a think about the roof structure. How high it needs to be so that you can stand comfortably inside it. You're not going to be walking all the way to the back wall because there's a bench, but I've put a line on the floor here so I know. And at that point I can go under there comfortably. It's a bit too close, but the whole building is going to be lifted up 20 centimeters or so. So I think that's about the minimum. Now that means 2 more logs on the back wall, which gives me a little bit of a problem because I really like this angle. If I have 2 logs on the back wall, that kind of means I've got to have 2 logs on this wall as well. And we don't have enough space here. Obviously I could just lift this up to here, but I really like the idea of these logs getting progressively more angled, and that's what this line is doing at the moment. If I lift this up, then these logs are going to be at the same angle as these, and I'm going to lose that nice visual effect. So now obviously another option would be to lift this point and lift this point. But then we're starting to get really, really tall. I suppose that's no big deal. There is a limit to how big we want this sail to be, this kite-shaped roof. So those are the things I'm mulling over at the moment. I know at least I need 2 logs in here. And the last log at least needs to be quite a big log. I said I've got them, but because I'm going to be sinking the roof supports into it, obviously a log like this with a support like this sunk into it, it's going to be almost through the log. So the last one's got to be a big one, which means I'm going to have to try and find a fairly small one to go under it. Otherwise we're going to be getting too tall. I'm also trying to figure out because we're going to have the posts here, and this beam is just kind of showing the slope of the roof, but I'm actually going to need 2 here coming up with so that section of roof will be flat. That's where we're going to put the chimney through. And that in itself is not a huge problem. What I have to keep in mind though is that these log walls will settle over time a little, and that post won't. So I have to figure out what the methods of attachment are going to be so that the whole roof line can actually move without doing itself any damage. And the same is going to be true on these walls. This piece of wood that I've got here now is actually representing a log. I want an actual whole log going all the way to here. I have to figure out how it's going to get attached into the post. I've got some challenges coming up. But there's this wall and this wall where I can now put another log on before I have to make any final decisions. So I'll go ahead and do that. Maybe it'll come to me. This is going to be interesting. As I said, well, it depends on the final decision of the roof line. But as well as putting the large ends of the logs at this end on top of each other so that this level is continually growing, I'm also exaggerating that by a couple of centimeters each log. You also notice that I'm starting to put really long ends on the logs. Those are going to end up supporting the roof, and the roof is obviously going to go out. It's going to have fairly wide eaves coming, probably about 1 meter. And I like that line of it coming out to meet the edge of the roof. So there's a lot that I'm really enjoying about this. But I'll move on with getting these two short logs done. Of course, placing the logs as I am now at progressively steeper and steeper angles does bring its own challenges. I'm having to take extra measures with each log to make sure it doesn't just roll off the building before I can draw it, and I'm having to recut the ends of some of these end logs to make the ends perpendicular to the floor once they're lifted up and angled like that. painful hand. I think it's my old friend carpal tunnel. Not got an awful lot of grip strength, so I'm going to call it a day for today. Just do those 2 logs. We'll resume tomorrow.